They told her he was lazy. The teacher said it at the first parent-teacher meeting. The school counselor wrote it in an email, and then one night at dinner, her husband put down his fork, looked at the boy, and said, "Your sister never had this problem." Maybe the problem isn't the school, right there at the table. And the boy heard every word, because his chopsticks stopped moving and he didn't pick them up again. She almost believed them. His sister, 2 years older, reads chapter books under the covers with a flashlight. His sister brings home spelling tests with stars drawn on top. She's never gotten a single note sent home. Not one. So maybe they're right. Maybe her boy is just the difficult one. But here's what nobody in that school ever told her. For every 100 girls held back in kindergarten, 145 boys get held back. In every single state, boys trail girls in reading by more than 40% of a grade level. And researchers at Virginia Tech found that the part of the brain boys need to hold a pencil and form letters doesn't finish developing until almost 2 years after it does in girls. Her son isn't lazy. His brain isn't broken. The system was built around a clock that doesn't match his biology, and nobody thought to mention that to her. So it's a Wednesday afternoon at Woodlands Primary, and 8-year-old Wei is sitting outside the principal's office in a green plastic chair that's too big for him. His feet don't touch the floor. He's holding a crumpled worksheet with a red circle around the part he didn't finish, which is most of it. His mother walks in and sees him there, legs swinging, and something just folds inside her. Because 3 years ago, this kid used to draw airplanes on everything. Napkins, the backs of receipts, the margins of her shopping list. He'd run up to her holding one and go, "Ma, this one can fly to the moon," and she'd stick it on the fridge with a magnet, and he'd stand there grinning at it. The fridge is empty now. He stopped drawing sometime last year, and she can't remember when. She sits down next to him. He doesn't look up. "Inma," he says, real quiet. "Am I stupid?" Just like that. 3 words, and she can't answer, because her mouth opens but nothing comes out. She puts her hand on his back, and he flinches, just slightly, and that flinch tells her everything. He's been carrying this question around for months, and nobody noticed. Subscribe. Because what she finds out next changes everything about her son. Next morning, 7:40. Wei's classroom, second row from the front. The teacher's already explaining a writing exercise, and the girl beside Wei has her pencil going before the instructions are finished. 3 sentences, 4, in neat, small handwriting. Wei picks up his pencil, looks at the page, and puts it down. Just stares at it like it's something he can't get into. His teacher walks by, glances down, and keeps going. She doesn't say anything, but he sees her write something in her notebook and his jaw tightens. Now here's the thing, nobody in that room knows. A neuroscientist at Virginia Tech named James Laird spent years scanning children's brains at different ages, and what he found should have changed every school in the country. The part of the brain that handles fine motor control, the part you need to grip a pencil and shape letters, develops about 18 months later in boys than in girls. The language centers that handle reading and writing don't come fully online in boys until around 7 or 8, while most girls are there by 5.5. So Wei isn't refusing. His brain hasn't finished building the thing his teacher is asking him to use. The girl beside him didn't work harder. She was just handed a head start that neither of them asked for. The Brookings Institution looked at reading scores across the entire country in 2024, and what they found was uncomfortable. Girls outperform boys in reading in all 50 states. Not most states, every single one. And the gap doesn't close over time. It widens. Wei picks up his pencil again, writes one word, and stops. His hand hurts. And he doesn't know why it's so easy for the girl next to him, but he's already starting to think it must be something about him. What his mother hears about it, though, comes from a very different angle. And it starts with one word she'll never forget. 2 weeks later, parent-teacher conference, a Thursday afternoon. Wei's mother is sitting across from his teacher, and there's a yellow folder open between them. "He's a sweet boy," the teacher starts, and Wei's mother can already feel the "but" coming. "But he spent 20 minutes on one sentence yesterday." One sentence. The other children finish the whole page. She opens the folder. He taps his pencil on the desk until the girl next to him covers her ears. He gets up to sharpen his pencil 4 times in one lesson. 4 times. She pauses and looks up. "Have you considered having him assessed?" Wei's mother feels her whole body go still, because she knows what assessed means. It means someone in a white room is going to look at her son and write down everything that's wrong with him. and whatever they write is going to follow him for years. She nods. She says she'll think about it. She doesn't say what she's actually thinking, which is, he used to be the happiest kid in the room. But there's a researcher at Stanford named Thomas Dee who looked at this exact thing from a direction nobody expected. He pulled a massive dataset of teacher evaluations and found that when boys had male teachers instead of female teachers, the boys' test scores barely changed, but their behavioral ratings shot up. The boys weren't suddenly calmer. They were just being read by someone who didn't see energy as a problem. Then there's a study from the University of Georgia that tracked thousands of students and found something worse. Teachers consistently rated boys lower on things like attention and organization, even when the boys' test scores were equal to the girls' equal scores, lower ratings. And here's the part that matters, because it was those behavioral ratings, not the test scores, that predicted who moved forward and who got left behind. So Wei is doing the same work as the girl next to him, but the way he moves, the way his leg bounces, the way he shifts every 90 seconds, all of it gets written down as a problem. And slowly, note by note, year by year, a story gets built around this kid that says he's the one who can't keep up. His mother drives home and sits in the car for a long time. She's thinking about the word assessed, and she's thinking about how he used to run through the kitchen holding an airplane drawing, going, "Ma, look, this one has jet engines." And she always looked. She wonders when she stopped looking. That night, she can't sleep, so she does what every parent eventually does. She opens her laptop and starts searching. Sunday night, nearly 11, Wei's been asleep for an hour. His mother's at the kitchen table with her laptop, the screen the only light in the room. She's gone down a rabbit hole she didn't expect, and the numbers keep coming. For every 100 girls who repeat kindergarten, 145 boys do. Boys get expelled from preschool at nearly 5 times the rate of girls. By high school, boys make up 70% of D and F grades. And by university age, 6 women are enrolled for every 4 men. She reads that last number again, 6 to 4. When she was growing up, the whole conversation was about girls needing more opportunity. Nobody mentioned that the boys had started disappearing. There's a book she finds by Richard Reeves at the Brookings Institution called Of Boys and Men, and his argument is so simple it's hard to argue with. Over the past 40 years, classrooms were reshaped to reward a very specific set of abilities: sitting still, reading quietly, writing in neat columns, following multi-step verbal instructions. And every one of those abilities develops earlier in girls. Not because girls are smarter, because the developmental clock runs on a different schedule. Then she finds a detail from a Harvard study 2025, and it stops her. Researchers tracked boys whose parents chose to delay school entry by just 1 year. Those boys performed dramatically better than the ones who started on time. Same kids, same brains, same schools. The only difference was 12 extra months for the wiring to catch up. She closes the laptop and sits in the dark kitchen for a long time. All this time, she thought something was wrong with her son, but the clock was just set for somebody else. She thinks about Wei asleep down the hall. She wonders what's happening to him at school when she's not there. Tuesday at recess. Wei is sitting on a bench by the basketball court. 3 boys are shooting hoops, and he's watching them, picking at the rubber edge of his shoe. He doesn't go over. First week of school, he was out there every day, came home with grass stains and scraped knees, and this huge grin. "Inma, I scored 2, he'd say, already pulling off his shoes at the door. Now he sits on the bench and picks at his shoes. His mother doesn't see this part, but his teacher mentioned it at the last conference. He used to be the first one outside at recess. Now I have to remind him to leave his desk. She said it like it was just a note, but to his mother, it sounded like a door closing. Here's what the research says happens next, and it's the part that keeps her awake. In a study in the Journal of Educational Psychology, followed boys from kindergarten through 12th grade. The ones who got low behavioral ratings in the early years, the kids labeled as problems in 1st or 2nd grade, were far more likely to completely disengage from school by middle school. Not because they couldn't handle the work, because they stopped believing they could. It's a loop. The brain isn't ready for what the classroom demands. The boy falls behind. Someone writes a note. He starts thinking he's dumb, so he stops trying. And when he stops trying, the grades drop. And that proves what everyone already assumed. UNESCO published a report on this in 2025 and found the same pattern in 67 countries. Boys aren't failing because they don't care. They're shutting down because the system spent years telling them they don't belong. Wei's mother thinks about his sister, who comes home talking about her writing project with her hands moving, voice up. Then she thinks about Wei, who comes home and goes straight to his room and shuts the door without saying a word. He used to stand in the kitchen doorway holding a drawing and ask, "Is this good?" He'd wait there until she looked. He stopped asking around second grade, and that's what gets her, because she wasn't paying attention when it happened. But she's paying attention now. Saturday morning, Wei's mother is standing at the kitchen counter with a cup of coffee she hasn't touched. She's been up since 6 reading about something called spatial learning, and she has an idea she's not sure about. Wei walks in half asleep and drops into his chair. She doesn't say anything about school, doesn't mention the conference or the assessment or any of it. She puts a box of balsa wood pieces on the table and a small craft knife. "I want to build something," she says, "but I don't know how." He looks at the pieces, doesn't say anything for a long time. Then he picks one up, turns it in his fingers, holds it up to the light. "That's a wing," he says. "You think?" She says, "Obviously, see the curve. But it's wrong. In it needs to be thinner at the back. Otherwise, the air goes over the top too fast and it dives." He puts it down and picks up another piece. "And this is the fuselage. But it's too heavy. We need to sand it." She just stares at him because 5 seconds ago he was half asleep, and now he's using words like fuselage. And something shifts in the room. He leans forward, both hands on the table, and she can see his brain turn on behind his eyes. This is the boy she remembers. For the next hour, they're measuring and cutting and arguing about angles, and he's doing math without knowing it because she set it up the night before. If the wing's 20 centimeters, how long does the tail need to be? And he's not writing numbers on a page. He's holding pieces up, comparing them, adjusting by feel, and getting it right. There's a researcher named Leonard Sachs who spent years studying this for his book Why Gender Matters. He found that boys learn spatial and mechanical concepts faster through physical manipulation than written instruction, not because they're less intelligent, because their brains route three-dimensional information through a completely different pathway than language. By lunchtime, there's a lopsided airplane on the table, and Wei is explaining exactly why it pulls to the left and what he needs to change. His voice is louder. His hands won't stop moving. She hasn't seen this version of him in months, not since he used to stand in the doorway going, "Ma, this one has jet engines." Her coffee went cold an hour ago. She drinks it anyway because she doesn't want to interrupt him. That evening, she sends his teacher an email. Could Wei do his next book report as a model instead of an essay? The reply comes back, "That's not really how we do things." She writes again, attaches the Harvard study about the red-shirting boys, and 3 days later, the teacher says, "Fine, just this once." Wei spends 4 days building a diorama of the book. Cardboard walls, painted sky, wire figures. He bent himself. When he presents it to the class, he talks for 6 straight minutes without stopping or looking at notes. His teacher writes in her notebook, engaged, articulate, surprised by depth of understanding. His mother reads that on the report card and holds the paper with both hands. Nobody has ever used the word depth about her son before. Monday morning, same hallway. Wei walks in with his backpack on both shoulders this time. He's carrying a paper bag, and when he gets to his desk, he pulls out the balsa wood airplane, a little beaten up now, one wing darker, where he re-glued it over the weekend. The girl next to him looks over. "What is that?" "I built it," he says. "In it doesn't fly straight yet because the left wing is 2 millimeters longer than the right. But I know how to fix it." She looks at him for a second. "Can you show me?" "Maybe," he says, and there's something in his voice that hasn't been there all year. The bell rings. Writing exercise, same as always. Wei picks up his pencil. He still takes a few seconds longer than the girl beside him. His letters are still bigger, still a little uneven. But the pencil moves. On the corner of his desk, the airplane sits with its nose pointed toward the window.